Maybe a quick show of hands, how many people have actually been through an IPO so far? Okay, we got an experienced crew. All right, well, that's good to see. Because really, for me and I think our team, this is the most exciting part of working with companies, right? This is something that we at NASDAQ and some of you fortunately have experienced. This is an incredible moment. This is an incredible milestone to make it to, my baseball terms, the major leagues, and then hopefully the Hall of Fame as a public company. But it's really engaging and being that resource and kind of augmented extension of your teams through the process. So first, I'll start a bit on NASDAQ. We're fortunate to have some of the most incredible companies listed with us. We call it the top 7 now. It's the Magnificent 7, as they're calling it. It used to be FANG, which we had all 4, and now with NVIDIA and Tesla sliding into the $1 trillion, touching that market cap, it's now the Magnificent 7. So I think, for us, it's not only the company you keep with these incredible brands, but really it's that brand association for us at NASDAQ as well. Our ethos as an exchange dates back to 1971, where we set out to electronify the stock exchange. And we were the first ones to try and take it from the paper tapes to actually put this on computers and in data centers. And so, again, for us, as really a global fintech platform with an exchange element of our business, we speak a lot of the same languages that our technology companies and our listed companies listed with us speak. We are a publicly listed company. That was the easiest IPO my team won. But we're going out every market surveilling the street, making sure our story resonates, making sure that we're very direct and pointed with our comms, with our narrative, also from an IR standpoint, ensuring that we're staying in front of the right audiences as it relates to the investor community. So it's a lot of lessons learned for us as a public company, but also something that we pull through and derive from each of our listed companies. NASDAQ, we've been on a good run here. Of course, I'm knocking on wood. We've welcomed 88% of the operating companies to NASDAQ this year of all IPOs. There's been 130 total, so as much as it's been a slow market, there is still some activity. Of that, it's been about 106 operating companies. So we take out the SPACs, right? So this is really just the 88% is the operating company. So of those 106, 93 have actually chose to list on NASDAQ this year. And as you see here in this bar graph, again, that's always a snapshot in time, but our increased market share year over year really is derived from our continued efforts that we invest not only in our platform and our partnerships, but also our team to be that resource for every company as they go throughout the different phases of that journey. And we'd be remiss if we didn't also mention that we've had about 285 companies actually switch exchanges from New York over to NASDAQ over the last, 12 years or so, equaling about $2.2 trillion. And, or excuse me, 2.7 now, with Linde actually switched today, so it's officially trading. That's a chemical company out of Germany. So again, considered a bit off sector, right, for a international chemical company, but it was a $198 billion market cap that switched over. So that's our largest since Pepsi. And then we recently had DoorDash make the move over to NASDAQ in just September this year. And I'll go offline on some of those reasons. But that was a very interesting one. That hurt when they made that initial decision and listed there in December 2020, but less than 3 years later, they ended up making the move over to NASDAQ. So IPO readiness, I'll hit a couple slides here because I know you're hearing a lot about this today, and I'm sure there's a lot of timelines and a lot of blocking and tackling. But I think one interesting piece for companies is still the various ways you can come to market. So right now, we're seeing the vast majority of companies go a traditional IPO route. And as we look at that, it's really in a relatively volatile and choppy market. This gives you really the best opportunity to put cash on the balance sheet. You're going to do an offering. You're going to do a traditional roadshow. You're going to select your investors. So a lot more of that is controlled. Once you're out and trading, obviously, then the price kind of fluctuates based on the market and your story. But we're seeing, again, the vast majority, even those that were thinking direct listing, pivot back to an IPO. The special purpose acquisition company, AKA the SPAC, is certainly still an option. Year to date, there's been 24 new SPACs listed, so I think we're seeing a bit more of a reversion to the mean as it relates to the SPAC issuance. So in 2020 and 2021, we saw an incredible increase in the number of SPAC vehicles coming to market. There were about, I think, 613 in 2021 alone. As you know, anytime the actors or the athletes start getting into the investment and SPAC game, that other shoe is going to drop pretty soon. So we have seen that. We're in a bit more of a normalized market, but we're continuing to see companies still leverage this vehicle as a way to go public. Year to date, here I had to peek there, but there's been 70 SPAC combinations this year that have been executed. So again, still a very relevant vehicle. The direct listing, this had a lot of fanfare, especially from the local VC community in 2018, 19, even into 2020. Those were kind of the last group that we saw leverage that. I don't believe we'll see many more of these until this market really rebounds. So perhaps one, maybe two next year. Class of 25 might look at this again, but a lot of it is back to the attributes of an IPO. For a direct listing, you're not doing a typical roadshow, you're not doing a traditional offering, so you're leaving the pricing element to this to the market, and you need, for any market, supply and demand, and without those anchor investors, you have a bit of risk there. So we're just not seeing as many companies jump at that opportunity. And then lastly is the direct listing with the capital raise. Both exchanges do allow this. This is something that we spearheaded at NASDAQ in partnership with the investment banks to come up with a regulation that would allow this to be permitted through the SEC. So again, it's there. We've had a lot of conversations about it, but we haven't seen that company take the jump yet for that process. This timeline, knowing, I guess, most of the audience is calm, so this is a bit more of the sprint that is the IPO process, or I should say timeline, so kind of that 2+ months out. So as you heard from some of the earlier panels, all the work starts a lot earlier than this, but this just kind of gives you that last sprint there as you work towards the finish line. And usually what pairs well with this, as I'm sure you've all seen or even created, is the good old Gantt chart. And so kind of soft circling those target dates and starting to work backwards on your different work streams and how to prepare for each element here of the timeline. So a bit on why NASDAQ, and I'd kind of probably reword that on just, again, how we support companies going through each stage of their corporate life cycle. So one, it starts on the private side. A lot of companies will think to wait to engage the exchange after they've already done drafting, maybe pick the banks. But our strong preference and the way we've built our platform is to engage and support companies throughout that life cycle, well in advance, 12, 18, 24 months in advance of a potential IPO. And then it starts to transition. We pick up that cadence and steam after we've agreed in partnership together towards the IPO. And then we're going to stay with you throughout your life, obviously, as a public company. And I think back to that slide with all the logos, that's something our team's done incredibly well and why we actually have a large office here. We've got 82 people upstairs on the 4th floor. And it's primarily to service a lot of our Bay Area and West Coast companies, to give that bespoke, boots on the ground type of engagement and customer success that allows you to really just focus on execution and operations. So briefly on this, sticking with the capital market side, we do have what we call the NASDAQ private market. So maybe some of your companies have engaged our team there, but this is really helping companies create structured liquidity programs. So think of tender offers, buybacks. We're seeing more companies actually look at this for auctions, for price discovery. And it helps companies to release some of the liquidity pressure that you may be feeling from your talent pools, right? So whether it's to attract or retain talent, we're actually seeing an uptick in companies starting to leverage the platform again. There was that lull directly correlated to the IPO market, a large spread in valuations. But now, as valuations are starting to decrease, or again, the gap is decreasing, I should say, in the bid-ask, we're seeing more companies start to look back at this solution as a way to offer some liquidity to their early shareholders and employees. And if you have any questions on this, we can chat afterwards, I guess, for sake of time. The second piece is around governance. And again, this was really born out of NASDAQ's own experiences with our board members, and then also with a lot of our clients. We'd have companies call us frantically saying, all right, one of my board members left his board deck in the jacket pocket of his flight in 3A, of course. Do we need to call the SEC? What do we need to do here? And so it was just this panic that they were still printing board decks. They were still leveraging Google Docs or Excel. And so with that, we started to build out through acquisition and in-house, develop really a governance-focused technology, so a secure board portal, allowing companies to have all of their information in that in a secure portal that can be referenced and used by any board member. And then from there, we've continued to understand what those governance needs are for companies and built out a suite of solutions here, including our board advisory, I'd highlight as well. With our 5,000 listed companies, we've got an incredible network of board members. And so we've really started to, one, host and kind of convene and build community around those board members so that those either other board members or aspiring board members can continue to be educated on best practices and really trying to skate to where the puck's going to be. But then also if your companies are starting to look for certain board members, we have that vast network that we can perhaps assist with introductions or understand maybe what a short list is. So we're not a search firm. So this is really, again, for goodwill and ensuring that everybody's in a place to be successful. And then on the corporate services, so this is something that every company does receive. I should say the qualifier is you have to list on NASDAQ's Global Market or Global Select. But with that, you'll get a complimentary 3-year package that includes this suite of services. So IR Insight, we're doing a lot around equity and basically an advisory service. So we have equity surveillance listed here. We also do targeting, investor targeting, helping get to that portfolio manager level of who actually owns your peers, who has dry powder, who might be worth meeting with at certain conferences. And then also there's global perception studies. So we'll go out and survey the street to understand, is your narrative resonating with the street? So companies will do that, NASDAQ included, prior to an earnings call to just kind of test, is our narrative resonating well or not? And then how do we need to properly script this heading into our earnings call? And we really see that post-IPO, I'd say, around the perception study. And a lot of times that comes around, a particular pivot, a launch of a new product, maybe a recent acquisition that you want to tie back into, okay, our narrative is evolving here. How do we leverage the data from the street to ensure we're telling that right story? And then a lot on ESG. So we've also built out an entire ESG suite, not only of tech solutions, but also advisory, understanding what are the frameworks, how do you get credit for the work you're doing, or how do you ensure that you're going to put those individuals and those operations in place so you can start to get credit for that story as a public company. And then the marketing, the fun stuff. So, I know there's a lot here, but I think as you look at the two stats, so one is we've got about 100 people in our marketing group. So this is across events, across digital, across social media, across PR. And as we get into working with companies leading up to the IPO, again, well in advance of an IPO, we're pulling in our team to really become the extension of your respective teams. So leveraging the people that do this regularly, what are the best practices learned? What are your goals? How do we augment your goals with our relationships, what we've seen work, and really, again, help build that package so it comes to life there leading up to the IPO. And then the other unique thing is the 90% number. So as I mentioned before, kind of the company we keep with those incredible brands, well, also, we don't talk the talk, but we walk the walk. So we invest about 90% of our marketing budget actually into our listed companies because it is that feedback loop, that brand association. So as we talk about the Magnificent Seven and these incredible logos that and companies listed with us, the better they do, the better it's reflected on us. You won't see a NASDAQ commercial necessarily. You're not going to see a lot of NASDAQ out of home or airport takeovers or any of that. It's going to be associated with our companies. And then this is just a little snapshot of the other, features, if you will. IPO day, it's pretty fun. It's pretty incredible. For those that have experienced it, hopefully it was with NASDAQ. If not, come on down or come on up, I guess. We're Midtown. So I think what's fun and unique with NASDAQ and kind of a difference between the two is we really do have an inclusive bell ceremony. And so as you heard Shoshana talking about Upwork and being able to have family and friends and board members and really expand. As you see here, we can have, Fire Code's about 75 people up there. I think Mobileye ended up with a little over 100. But it's really, again, that opportunity to welcome as many people and be as inclusive as you can in that celebration. Then we throw a great party as well. So a lot of companies will, even if they can't be on the podium with us, they'll still bring a few hundred people there to Midtown. We've got a great space on the second floor that we just renovated, as well as the 10th floor. So if anybody's in New York or if you want to swing by, please send me a note. Would love to host you and check it out. But again, it's a way to also engage the partners, the channel partners, your investors. It really expand what you want to do for the party and the celebration that you're throwing. Another fun thing that we've done well at NASDAQ, is, back to the inclusive nature of our celebrations, is hosting employee celebrations at your locations. So I think this one down in the corner, bottom right corner there, that was ARM. So as you saw in the previous shot, or slide, excuse me, ARM had about 100 people there in New York for PR, for the bell ceremony, et cetera. But then we also threw a party for them in Cambridge at their headquarters with about 1,200 people. And so this, and as you see there, we had the confetti, we had the branding. This really made them feel like they were also part of this IPO day, which is so incredible, as we know from the internal comms perspective. This is a milestone, this is a point in time, and the hustle starts from here. But being able to take that moment and really include everybody in this celebration just garners very goodwill for the culture you're creating. For those people that can't be at the party or the bell, we also have that inclusive app. Again, Shoshana had mentioned on Upwork on being able to leverage our tower there in Times Square. So this is a unique proprietary app that we created where employees can basically take photos or selfies of themselves, and then we'll push that out not only on the tower, but as you see here with Braze and even Coinbase, we can put a little social frame around it. You own all of this, so that comes to you in a link. So however you want to use it for your all hands or kind of that cadence of post-IPO social drip. But then also we're going to be engaging with it and pushing it out through our channels. So we've had so many employees, it might be the product engineer, the product manager saying, look, Mom, I went public. Well, and then they push it out to all their friends and family and grannies on Facebook. And next thing you know, you've got a nice little tail there, hopefully leading back to either the page or the web page, or I should say Facebook page or web page. Then another great thing with NASDAQ is our real estate there in Times Square. So these are two examples, as I mentioned. There's about the 100 at Mobileye, but you see Monday.com over here had 413 people come for their IPO. So we've got the scale and the space to host and throw that great party. But then also, as you see along the bottom edge there, for certain brands, we can do Times Square, what we call takeovers. So we've got the real estate there in front of our building, not only for the images, but we've had Lucid brought in some of their cars. Tesla did that as well. Virgin Galactic in a very Branson way, even though it was January. When they went public, they brought a 70-foot Virgin Orbit rocket to Times Square. So we were able to get NYPD comfortable with that. Again, this is just kind of some quick flashes of the art of the possible. And so as we start to think through the creative ideation phase of how do we want to celebrate this, what have others done, but how do we want to make it unique to our story, we have an incredible canvas here that we can leverage, not only from a real estate perspective, but also as noted there, Times Square is going to give you a lot of visibility. There's still over 4,000 people, pedestrians, walking through the space on a daily basis. So you have the digital screens at your disposal, but also the real estate there to help promote. And then on the PR, social, again, as I mentioned, I know there's a lot of talk around PR and that element, and this is a bit around day one, but our team will also engage and augment a lot of the work you're doing with your advisors around building out that schedule, building out, what's the hook gonna be for certain media outlets. And then we've got 38 media outlets that film from NASDAQ. As you see here, we have Squawk Box in the morning with Aaron Sorkin and the team there at NASDAQ in our Studio A. We have Fast Money in the afternoons at CNBC show in our Studio B. Yahoo Finance is now filming in our studios there on a daily basis. And so in addition to the coverage you'll get from the bell ceremony itself, we've got the broadcast capabilities as well as everybody there on site to really ensure that you have a robust day. And then also I'd add to that, we can work with you, and again, in addition to your advisors, but thinking through who those spokespeople will be for your IPO day. So I think Sonos was one that comes to mind. Let's see, they had their CEO, CFO, CMO, Chief Product Officer, both co-founders, and I think the general counsel even got some airtime there. And so we were able to, again, specify which were the core media outlets that you want to focus on for the executives, and then which were the trade-specific ones that you wanted for more of the product side. I'll have to look up what the GC was talking about, but I think, again, something that our team does very well, and we've really built this out for it. And I'd just add to that also on the social side, working with your team to understand, what is the hashtag you want to use, what is the cadence post IPO. So there'll be that leading up, but not a lot of activity leading up to the IPO, but post activity. How do we want to structure that cadence so you stay top of mind for your relevant audiences, both the investors, your employees, your customers, and your prospects? And how do we leverage social as that channel to ensure that, again, you're continuing to get eyeballs on the brand. And then this is kind of that last snapshot of the all-in-one. All this, we talked a lot around day one, but we are going to stay with you throughout your life as a public company. So everything we talked about here will continue on throughout your life as a listed company on NASDAQ. So there to support you on every announcement, every new executive, new board member, new launch, product launch, entering a new market, say, if you want to come back and leverage NASDAQ's event space for analyst days or customer events, let alone any of the PR. You're going to do some NDRs maybe ahead of a follow-on. You want to get some time on CNBC or some of the media channels. So our team stands there ready every single day to support you to, again, achieve those objectives. And right on time, and thank you.